Good evening, Wilbert Cook, Hand Up Recovery Homes. I'm back, and I have one of my favorite guests, one of my most humble but also most accomplished and brilliant African-American men. He's he reminds me of what my friend in grammar school used to call his superheroes. He loved playing with them figurines back then. They got so many figurines now for young people. Everybody that gets famous almost get a figurine. But back then, most of the figurines were certain characters. Primarily, the superheroes were the first figurines the kids played for in the late 60s, early 70s, probably even closer to mid 70s. But that has spawned a whole new industry. But I didn't invest. I was too young, didn't figure it out young enough. But my guest has been accomplished not only in the academic world, but in the legal world on various ends, private and public and government. And he's one of the simplest, as I was telling the lady that introduced me to him more formally for this program, Jackie Greer. He's probably the nicest, humblest judge I've ever met. And I know a few, and some I even know for 30-something years. You know, you probably know one of them, and that's my buddy Ed Washington. They retired, right? And Ed helped me get involved in helping what turned out to be Judge Joy Cunningham, that evolved into helping Janulius in his first run for office and successful, and President Obama through this gentleman, Al Kendall, who also has a show on a radio station, as well as he do a little bit of everything. But those relationships, and Judge Ed introduced me to them. But the most humblest guy I've met is this Judge Murray. He has a lot of experience, and we last talked, we were dealing with winter issues. But now we've heard of and seen on the news, same thing happens every year, unfortunately. It's 90 degrees, heat index 105, and air conditioning goes out. Usually we hear mostly about the residential buildings, but this time it went out in hospitals. So, Judge, can you tell us from the housing court, how do you handle hospitals versus residential units and high rises? So you might want to talk about how the hospital situation, how does your jurisdiction help with that? And then the high-rise buildings. And then we just got regular homes sometimes, regular tenements, 2 flats, 4 flats. And are they handled different, the same? I know some of the legal parameters probably pretty similar, but compassion of the court may be slightly different. So you can go ahead, take it away, and I'll just sit back and absorb some knowledge with the rest of the audience.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you again for inviting me to be your guest on your program. I really enjoy it. And before we get into the subject matter tonight, I just want to say all those names that you threw out are right. People familiar with me. In fact, Joy Cunningham was an associate judge and retired, and then went to work for Northwestern Hospital.
Right. Okay.
She then ran for the appellate court against the slated candidate, and won. We won. And I was one of her lawyers.
All right. Okay.
In fact, it was a very narrow victory, but we were able to preserve the victory with a ballot recount post-election because of the margin. So Joy is a good friend and a wonderful woman. Janulius I know of, I've met him a few times. I know he and Kwame Raoul play basketball together. In fact, they played with my oldest son. They were competitors on the court. And then, of course, Ed Washington, who I consider a good friend.
Right,
I've known Ed for quite a long time. So he is a good person. Yeah, he's also humble, I think.
Yeah, he's humble. Yeah, great. Ed is humble.
And also from the West Side.
And West Side.
Right. Yeah, so he's a good guy.
Yes.
But as to the subject matter this evening, a number of years ago, the Chicago City Council enacted legislation that dealt with temperature issues in residential settings in the city of Chicago. Now, it's important to understand the jurisdiction that exists. So the court that I sit in is situated in the Daly Center, which is right downtown. And we enforce the housing codes as it pertains to the city of Chicago.
Okay.
There are 5 municipal districts that surround Cook County,
Right.
and they are charged with matters that arise in their jurisdiction. So we have a court that sits in Skokie, which is Muni
Right.
District 2. We have one in Rolling Meadows, which is Muni District 3. Maywood is Muni District 4. Brisbane is Muni District 5. And then Markham is Muni District 6. So there is a Cook County order that defines the towns and such where matters arise and which jurisdiction those matters can be raised as they pertain to these issues of local governance.
Okay.
Now, it's also correct that any case can be filed anywhere in Cook County. We have jurisdiction over everything. But if one of the litigants, parties in the case, raises a question about venue, and venue is where the case is presiding, and if the subject matter of it is designated to be dealt with in one of those other municipal districts that I mentioned, then the case can be transferred to that district. But if no one raises an objection, then the case can reside wherever it is, because any judge can enter any order.
Right. Okay.
So in the city of Chicago, we're governed by the Chicago City Code. And a number of years ago, as Wilbert was mentioning, there was a significant situation that arose with heat, summer heat. Summer heat.
Summer
and
95.
you might recall over the past roughly 7 days, we've had some heat here in Chicago. In fact, the index that you mentioned topped 100 degrees in terms of the reading. So in high-rise buildings where there's a central heating system that pertains to that structure, then they are required to maintain cooling systems that will not affect life safety issues relative to residents in that situation. Now, maybe one of the most notorious situations that happened, I think it was last summer, where there were residents in a nursing home, and the operating nursing home actually had to rent buses because it was so warm in the facility that the residents of the nursing home could not stay there without suffering catastrophic results. So in fact, they removed them, and they had buses that were brought to the nursing home parking lot, and residents removed in order to not expose them to the possibility of being affected by the high temperatures that we experienced. And the same pertains to residential high-rise buildings where there's a essential heating and cooling system that they are bound by the necessity of maintaining temperatures within the range. And I apologize for not knowing what that range during summer months. The winter heat season just ended about 2 months ago. It ended May 15th, and it will come back into force September 15th. So it's a fairly long requirement in Chicago in terms of heating, but we normally don't get into the enforcement season until usually November, December. The summer season in Chicago tends to last a little longer. But in theory, if you experience some cooler temperatures beginning September 15, then the landlord would be required to maintain the minimum heat requirements required for residential spaces. So what happens in this situation is that 311 is a phone number that you can call and report any violation, not just of the temperature requirements during the heating and cooling system. But any other violation that you think may exist, your neighbor doesn't cut their grass,
Wow.
or
Okay.
you've got an abandoned property that you believe is being vandalized, or squatters are there, or gang activity, you can use 311 to alert the city of the situation there and bring their attention to that property.
But what about the city when they don't mow the lawns that they control? That's in the possession of the city. They doing better, I have to admit, lately.
Call
With my
311,
neighbor calls, I
and
think,
also,
a lot to
also
make
call
sure.
your alderman,
Right,
to
okay.
make sure it's top of mind with them as well.
Okay.
But yes, you can call 311 and report any sort of situation in your community that really is going against the sense of being a good neighbor, not only private ownership but also public ownership.
All right.
So
our government has a responsibility to live by the laws that have been created for the people to live by.
Absolutely, and there is a lot of city-owned land in a lot of areas that have to be addressed in terms of summer lawn maintenance.
Right.
And you see crews out from time to time to deal with it.
Definitely.
Including Chicago Park District lands. Those have to be maintained. But it is important to report it because we all want to live in good neighborhoods where our neighbors attend to their lawns, and the city, being a neighbor, should attend to its lawn as well. So it is correct that the city is obligated to abide by and enforce the rules that pertain to summer temperatures, such that they don't create a health hazard to the residents and occupants of those properties. And we are aware of situations where the heat index has led to the death of certain citizens in Chicago because they couldn't tolerate that temperature, and no one checked on them to see what the conditions were where they were living.
Judge, I want to segue, and we're going to reflect back to bounce back forward. And that is the 95 heat wave, I believe it was,
Yes.
where some friends of mine lost a family member, a few other neighbors.
I lost a brother.
Okay, it was
in
okay,
95.
yeah.
Yep.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
I understand that. But were many of these heat guidelines predated 95, or did 95 cause the government to have to be more stringent or respectful and enforce them? Because it appears that enforcement was a lot less, if I remember correctly, back then, especially for those who had relationships with government. Unfortunately, they didn't always enforce things when they were poor property managers. But I think nowadays the government holds property managers, even if they have relationships with those in power, a lot more accountable. And I think the courts also hold them a lot more accountable after the heat wave of 95.
Yeah, and normally those heat situations, in terms of heat index situations, they are given emergency status.
Right, okay.
So those matters are usually brought to the court right away. They don't let them linger because of the risk of someone experiencing catastrophic result. So those are typically brought to the court's attention right away.
Right, and some of the catastrophic results of heat is people with asthma become heavily affected, people with high blood pressure, and other issues is dehydration, and heat itself, heat exposure causes heat strokes. And you don't have to be in the sun. The actual high temperature of the body creates a person going into what becomes a heat stroke.
Yep.
So at a certain temperature that happens, then the heat stroke. And I watch sports and stuff. That's when I first started learning about it. Athletes a lot sometimes when they pushing themselves to be the greatest, they are eligible for these heat strokes because they're out in the sun. Decathlons, marathon runners, long distance runners, the auto race like NASCAR. They have to really monitor those people, and even though they in some good clothing so they don't burn if a fire occurs, They also in heat managed clothing, and they sometimes, like one they said had a few of them got ice packs to put on their neck to help keep their body temperature down during the races Saturday and Sunday a few weeks ago when they were here, a little over a week ago when they were here. So it's real important. That's how important it is that literally they were giving an ice pack to the professionals who are out in the sun all the time driving throughout the year. Because
those race cars, they generate a lot of heat.
Yeah, from them engines and all that.
Yep. And I was going to mention that there was a news report that I heard on NPR in the last couple of days because of the typically the soccer or football championships are done over the summer months, and they were recommending because of the impact of the temperatures on those athletes that championship be moved to cooler months. So maybe being moved to late summer, even early fall, because of the impact that it has on the athletes participating.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we follow a lot of. Unfortunately, we've lost a lot of high school athletes even recently because they start practicing in these warmer months to prepare for August season, and a lot of, especially poor community schools, do not have the medical resources. And even some private schools do not put money into the medical resources of having medical equipment there, having people there, medical professional to help manage those players while they're working out. And we lose players due to heat stroke every year in every sport that's done, whether it's baseball, not as prevalent, but football, soccer, and even sometimes preparing basketball seasons during summer months. If you're not in a facility with good cooling system, those gyms can be extremely hot.
Yeah, and there was a situation, I think, over the past couple of weeks where there were young children who were left in a car.
Oh, yeah.
And their body temperature was just, the folks who reported on it said their body temperature was so hot when they touched them, and they succumbed to those conditions, and we lost two young children.
Wow, that's horrible.
Yes,
and absolutely. Parents, you got to remember, you cannot leave these kids in the car while you go shopping.
Nope.
And it's 85, 90 degrees outside, because inside the car going to be 110.
Right, pets as well.
Well, Judge, I have we'll talk about pets on another day, but sometimes I hate to segue to pets when we talk about human life.
No, I agree.
That's just the issue I have, and this is my issue, and let me put it out front. My issue is we got pet lovers that are still racist, that are still very biased toward human beings, and actually some of them could care less about the human life, and I struggle with that, honestly. It's a good chance to say, and I think poverty is one of those episodes in society. Systemic poverty is often not specifically pet lovers, but in general, there are a certain set of biased and racist lovers of pets that could care less about the human condition. And I struggle with that. And excuse me for interjecting at this time. But also, when the news segue, we lost 2 people, but we saved the dog or the cat. I'm like, whoa. And they say that with more excitement than they seem to have sympathy or empathy when they mention the death.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where did emotion go in the death? But all of a sudden, it's some excitement that we saved the pet, but we lost the human beings, and you seem numb to that. You kind of try to make sure you don't give emotions because they talk not to get too emotional. And sometimes they'll cut from a live feed if they get emotional. But they often give that little a little smile because they say, and I'm like, a pet just does not do it for me when a human life been lost. But I understand loving your pets. I mean, I lost a few cats because of the nature of city life. Cats are in danger out at night when we got other pets that attack them. And we've lost some cats. And I've lost a dog or 2 when I was younger. We stopped even trying to have pets for a number of years because it affects us as humans. We do love our pets. I love the pets I've had the few in my life, and I just don't want to take care of a pet. And so I won't get one now. I think I would be a good pet owner, but I don't want the responsibility. If I have to be responsible at this late date, give me the real child. I don't want a pet substitute. Because people are doing that now. It's easy to take care of a pet. And I'm getting older, so maybe I'll leave the idea of a child alone. Let me just get me a pet and call that the kitten, my little girl, or my little boy, or the dog. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess if it works for people. I'm getting a little older, you all, but viewing audience, I'm eligible for a real kid. But anyway, all right. Back to the seriousness of, and it's kind of good to lighten up, but the seriousness of the heat situation. And then also, how do we raise, we're talking about adults have to be responsible, but we also have a responsibility to teach young people. And heat contributes, which we see, to the murder rate every summer. Car accidents, because people drinking beers is not a way to address the summer heat, throwing back 5 more beers. That is actually adversely affects you and the public when you do that, to handle that. And it can contribute to heat stroke, especially if you're drinking the hard liquor. But the beers also can contribute to you not knowing how hot your body really is getting.
Yeah, it puts you in a false sense of security. For the liquid that you're taking in, you're always better off drinking water than some form of alcohol.
And those of us who like the caffeine and all that, it's not advised to drink too much of that either. You know, because one thing, it can raise your heart rate, which sometimes too can raise your body temperature. And now, one other thing, we got a few minutes left. Some of the things you've been involved in to help young people, so that, because one of our main issues is we want to try to help reduce violence, reduce substance abuse as a form of coping skill, and encourage lifestyle changes for those who are adversely affected by either the violence or the substance abuse or any other addictions or addictive behavior. So how do we what groups have you worked with that help young men, women, and even adults move in the right direction or a new direction?
Well, I'll try to tick off some of the things that come to mind. I have coached, younger kids in basketball.
Okay, great.
Doing the YMCA program that was in South Shore.
Okay.
Also, I was a board member of an organization called ROAR, which is Reach Out and Read. And it was a program that was geared towards trying to promote adult literacy, because the better the parent reads, the better the child will read.
Right. Okay.
So I was involved in that. On the sort of I call civics area, I was involved in an organization. I'm trying to think of the name of it now, but dealt with voter registration.
Okay.
In that regard. Then for a number of years, I've been involved in an annual event called the African Festival of the Arts.
Oh, wow. September 1st? Is that the one?
Usually Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day weekend. Okay.
We've been a little off key the last couple of years. Washington Park.
I got to try to get back out there.
It's a tough financial task to put it on, but we're hoping this year to bring it back. Because we've been off key the last couple of years.
All right.
What else? The Cook County Bar has had something called the Community Law Project.
Okay,
so
right.
I volunteered to give advice in that project, and in certain situations I've also taken on representation for those who can afford a lawyer. And also I was involved with Operation Push while in law school. And we created the Push Law Clinic when I was there with a woman named Frances Davis. So after law school, a number of days during the week, I would travel from Northwestern to Push. And we would take calls and try to refer people for legal help if they needed it.
Right, okay. All right, that's great. And I love the fact you mentioned the Community Law Project because the Community Economic Development Law Project helped me create a hand up. They helped me get through the process of the federal application for a 501c3 that is still good 21 years later almost. August will be like the 21st year since they originally got me.
Congratulations.
My nonprofit status. So we're part of his history, and he's part of our history. And it's a great organization. Anyone want to start a nonprofit and you don't have no $2,000-$3,000, no $10,000, and the lawyers may be telling you they know how to do it and they don't know how to do it, because one of my best friends who's a millionaire practically now, I won't give his name because I mentioned his status, but he had spent tens of thousands, well, at least $5,000 to $10,000, and lawyers had not got him through the process. But the Community Economic Development Law Project helped poor people, or people cash poor, with great visions, get their nonprofit status and help them so they can move forward, as well as small business owners. So that would be great. And thank you, and I appreciate that. And we're wrapping up, but thank you, Judge, again, for being so wonderful, being willing to come out. Our condolences still, we're going to continue to pray for you, continue to encourage you, and we thank you for caring enough about the community in spite of some of what you may be going through personally.
Appreciate
that you come out, and I want my viewing audience to pray and support and encourage and send great vibes and supportive strength to you. And we love your commitment to us, and I want our audience to stay committed to you. All right. Thank you, Judge. Appreciate everything you do.
I always enjoy being here.
All right.